Jai Radha Madhava Jai Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Kopidana Balaba Grivadari Jaya Grivadari Kopidana Balaba Grivadari Jaya Grivadari Kopidana Balaba Grivadari Jaya Grivadari Yasodanandana Brajadhanaranjana Jaya Brajadhanaranjana Yasodanandana Brajadhanaranjana Jaya Brajadhanaranjana Yamuna Tiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Yamuna Tiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Gopidana Baba Grivadari Jaya Grivadari. Gopidana Baba Grivadari Jaya Grivadari. Yasodanandana Raja Janaranjana Jaya Raja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Raja Janaranjana Jaya Raja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Yamuna Tiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Yamuna Tiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jayom Vishupad Paramahamsa Prabhupada Asadhara Situ Shri Shriman His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Haribol Slava Zabrani Bhakta Slava Shri Guru Shri Garangi Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhute Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Thiramane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vicharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskadyade Siddharne Om Agyanativanandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksurmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttaparakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vidham Dham Sajivam Sarvaitam Savadutam Rajana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakan Zvitam Shah Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanshana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishubhanu Sudhadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Dribhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patidanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 3, The Marriage of Sukanya and Shaivana Muni, text number 12, without any purport. But maybe we'll read since most of these verses have only very small purports, or no purports, I just will read this one. Griham Grihishe Somasya Yagye Vam Apya Somapo Kriyatam Evayo Rupam Pramatanam Yad Ipsitam Graham Grihasye Somasya Yagye Vam Apya Somapa Kriyatam evayo rupam Pramatanam yad ipsitam Graham Grihishe Somasya Yadameva rupam Pramadanam yadipsitam Graham Grihishe Somasya Yagyevam Apya Somapo Kriyatameva rupam Pramadanam yadipsitam. Ladies. Grahanam gaishe samasya Yagnevam vapasomapao Kriyatameva rupam Pramadanam yadipsitam. Graham, a full pot. Grihishe, I shall give. Somasya, of somarasa. Yagye, in sacrifice. Vam, of both of you. Api, although. Asomo pao. of you two who are not eligible to drink Somarasa, Kriyatam, just execute, may, my, Vaya, young age, Rupam, beauty of a young man, Pramadhanam, of women as a class, Yat, which is, Ipsitam, desirable. Translation. Chaivana Muni said, although you are ineligible to drink Soma rasa in sacrifices, I promise to give you a full pot of it. Kindly arrange beauty and youth for me, because they are attractive to young women. Just a word about Samarasa. Samarasa is, actually we're all have to have Samarasa. Most of us don't get a full pot of it, or even a cup of it. But Soma, does anyone know where Soma comes from? There's a plant called the Soma plant, which is the demigods. But what is Soma? Soma. Which planet in the universe gives us Soma? Who said that? Yes, moon. In what way? It was a good question. This moonlight. What's that? No, I mean, we're not on the heavenly planets right now, we're in Slovenia. Yeah, but which way? The moon is giving us samarasa through the moonlight. Now, it's not very intense for most of us, but in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that I enter into the moon and become the juice of life to all vegetables. So, without the moonlight, vegetables would not have a taste to them. So that taste is called rasa. So samarasa means the taste which comes from the moon. Oh, anyhow, soma. So rasa is actually taste. Now everything has some taste, and therefore that's rasa. Now that taste may not be so intense, but color has a certain taste. For instance, if everyone just dressed in red all the time, is red a warming color or a cooling color? Yes, the good. And what color is cooling?
Blue.
And what other colors?
Green.
Yeah.
Violet.
Violet? Yeah. What side of the spectrum is violet? Is it on the red side or the blue side?
It's on the blue side.
Violet? What's that? Blue and red? Blue and... Anyhow, I don't know. All right. I usually don't have too much contact with violet. What's that?
It's a rock violet. That's the red, orange, green.
Anyhow, maybe violet, I don't know. I never got burnt by violet, at least. So there's colors that are cooling, there's colors that are warming. Cooling is the colors that actually keep the body stable. It keeps them, it's kapha. Cooling is good for the mind, because the mind, we want a stable mind, passive, very peaceful mind. When the mind's too agitated, does it get agitated by cooling things or by heating things? Is anger heating or cooling? Anyone know? Probably. Anyone here ever get angry at all? Any? Well, we have a pretty calm, peaceful group. Anyone ever feel any frustrated? Be honest. So, frustration is actually just internal anger. that we don't want to manifest. Is that cooling or heating? Do you feel nice and cool? Yeah, I feel frustrated. I feel so good. I feel just like right at home. So for anger, red, frustration is the opposite. It burns the Soma. Irritation, inflammation. If you ever study medicine, you'll find that the major cause of disease is inflammation. Anyone ever experienced any acidity and things like that? Well, we have a real healthy group here too. That acidity just burns, and it makes it, although it's intense fire, it makes it very difficult to digest anything. When there's inflammation in the stomach, for instance, acidity. A lot of fire, but it can't do anything. So, Samarasa, I don't know how they make it. I know that there's a plant in the heavenly planets called the Soma plant, but that Soma plant undoubtedly gets its energy from the moon, and when you condense it, of course I don't know exactly what condense means in the heavenly planets, then they make Samarasa from it. Now the interesting thing is that Samarasa invigorates one, but it doesn't apparently make one youthful. You can be old and very invigorated, and you could be young and pretty much dead. So we'll find out that although the Ashwini Kumaras they knew of a lake, it doesn't say where it is, but there's some lake somewhere that you enter into it, you get a youthful body. I don't know if it's still around, this is a long time ago. In any case, but still, they couldn't drink Samarasa. Even though they got youthful bodies, still they needed Samarasa to actually get the energy of the full energy that they wanted. And also, so similarly, we have the sun, which gives us heat and light, and it gives us energy, vitamin D. Vitamin D is the buzzword in health food now. Are you getting enough vitamin D? And Samarasa, which comes from the moon, actually makes the body and the mind, everything, feeling comfortable, stable, not excited. So we need both of them. We need the stability of the mind, peaceful mind, feeling comfortable, satisfied mind. Samarasa makes one feel satisfied. And the energy coming from fire, the sun, the energy of the sun, which is a lot of prana. Does anyone know what solidified sun, what form that takes? If you want to eat the sun, what do you have to eat? Can you eat the sun? Is that possible? Sun energy?
Yes, sun rays.
What's that?
Sun rays.
Yes, but when they become solidified. Oranges. Yeah, you have to eat a lot of oranges, I think. Yeah, oranges, I'm sure they give you some prana. But what actually is solidified sunlight? The prana of solidified sun. What element? What's that? Yeah, of course. But you got to eat a lot. If you take a little tiny substance of this and you can digest it, you get amazing amounts of energy. The most tiny amount of it. Well, if you drink mercury, you'll get some. You'll definitely get an effect. Even if you touch mercury, you'll be pretty much dead pretty soon. But mercury is used in it. It's used in a preparation called makadwash. Mercury is what digests it. Gold. Gold is solidified sunlight, prana. And therefore, if you even take a tiny bit of gold and you put it into water and you boil the water, you don't have to, you can take the gold out and then you can drink the water, you get energy from it. So although we look around in this material universe and we think, well, we don't understand really too much going on. We just take everything for, oh yeah, the sun's out today, must be, must be spring or something, We don't realize we need the sunlight. We actually need moonlight also. And they both have their energies. In the body, we need sunlight, for instance, for digestive power. We need moonlight, we need samarasa to have a stable mind, ultimately. And what's the goal of yoga? What are we trying to stabilize in yoga? What's that? The mind, yes. For one who conquers his mind, the mind is the best of friends. And for one who's not done so, it remains the greatest enemy. And why is the mind not stable? This is a real, you understand this, you're liberated. Why is the mind not stable?
It's full of desires.
Yeah, what are the desires?
Material desires.
Okay, what does it mean? What are the two kinds of material desires it's full of?
Sexual desire and the other one.
What's that? Yes, lamenting and hankering. We hanker for what we don't have, and we lament for what we've lost. And therefore we want to control and enjoy. We want to therefore, unless we can attain what we want and prevent what we don't want, we can't really control and enjoy. So that's why Hiranyakashipu stayed on the tips of his toes for 120 years of the demigods. What was his aim? To practice yoga and get a certificate? I will be a Mahayogi. I can teach in the school now. Why was he standing on the tips of his toes for 120 years? What was he trying to achieve? What's that? He wanted to make sure he got a body that didn't die. Anyone else wanted to get... Most people in this world would like to have a body that didn't die. Because if you have a body that's going to die, therefore there's no question of controlling the universe because you can't even control your own body. So it's good if you can get a body. First of all, if you want to control the whole universe, at least start with trying to control your own body, making sure it's going to last for some time. And then you can think about, then you can think about getting what you want and avoiding what you don't want. Getting control of the universe and avoiding, disappearing so you're not control anymore. So generally speaking, in order to survive in the material world, we have to do what? What is, in Ayurveda, the most important aspect of health? Does anyone know what it is? Of course, you have to read my mind. Yes. Digestion. Even at the end of Prabhupada's pastimes, he mentioned to his disciples that my digestion is not working, therefore I'm probably not going to be here for very much longer. So fire digestion, it's called Agni. So if Agni is stable, it's not too much, it's not too little, it's balanced, called Sama Agni, then the result is what we eat physically digests itself, and that turns into what? If it actually digests, what happens? We actually digest our food. What's that? You don't even have to digest the food to get the prana, actually. Did you ever feel hungry and then you just smell an apple or even eat a piece of it? Anyone here ever get hungry? Maybe on a fast day. And then if you just eat one slice of apple, suddenly you get energy. So that energy is not coming from digesting the apple, it's coming from the fact that there's a part in our physiology where if we just smell, or we can extract prana from that smell, from that, or we just taste. We can extract prana from the food if we just taste it. And we get energy from it. Matter of fact, you can get energy just by drinking water if you extract the prana from it. If it's clean water, fresh water, you just drink the water, you get energy. You didn't digest it. So prana, yes, prana comes from digestion. Digestion has many facets to it, of which beginning from... And if you look at something which is beautiful, which is spiritual, then you get energy from it. So we also eat with our eyes. Our eyes are also has to digest what we're seeing. Otherwise we can't see anything. Now if we look at the wrong thing, the three doshas get all scrambled up, vata, pitta, and kapha. And actually it affects our brain. Our brain can't digest anything. We look at the wrong things. We have the wrong attitude. We have the fiery emotion. What are the three emotions? The three emotions that Krishna tells us we should avoid?
Lust, anger, and greed.
Yes, lust, anger, and greed. So these are cooling emotions or fiery emotions? Fiery, and they just scramble up our mental and eventually our physical digestion. Interesting, in astrology, the malefics in a chart by house, the third house represents where the karaka is, Saturn. So third house is lust, sixth house is anger, and 11th house is greed. Now the 11th house is also the house of gain. So that should be great. Wow, I got a great 11th house in astrology. I'm going to get a lot. And I'm probably not going to give away a lot because I'm going to be very greedy. So what's wrong with greed? I mean, nowadays, the greedier the person is, the more they're famous. So what's wrong with greed? What's that? Yes, it agitates the agitated mind.
It can never be stopped.
Yeah, there's no limit to it. It's just a different phase of lust. The problem is that greed, what's the thing that greed will probably mean you engage in what? Atyahara prayasascha prajalpa niyamagraha. Yeah, eating too much. And then as a result of that, atyahara, eating too much, or eating anything. Any of the senses eat, hearing, rock music, heavy, hearing too much. It's not good before you chant your rounds. It doesn't make for a happy, stable, peaceful mind. Can't get no satisfaction. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. No, that doesn't work. So sixth house is anger. So from lust, the third house comes, and third house, it's very interesting astrology. You learn how the material world works, and it's exactly the opposite of what most people think the world should work. In other words, third house is fun and games and all kinds of things. Third house is fooling around with the opposite sex, just having a good time. Third house is a good time. And experiencing with all the senses. That's the third house. And a good third house, you or Gemini, the twins, you really try to enjoy in the material world. It's fun and games. And then the result of that, you get frustrated after some time. She said she loved me, but when I ran out of money, she left me. He said he was going to protect me, but he was just interested in exploiting me. He thought I was a piece of chewing gum. He chewed me as long as he could, and then he spit me out once the sweetness wasn't there. So that's lust, fooling around, playing around, without any, and then it comes anger, frustration. You are my enemy, and I have killed you, and all my other enemies will also be killed. Watch out, I'm on fire. Look at all these burned people around me. That's what happened when they didn't surrender. So comes anger, and then from anger comes, anger doesn't come greed, it becomes delusion. But in between we have, from the sixth house, so the sixth house is the 11th house. From the sixth is the 11th. The 11th house is the house of greed. So we try to gratify our greed to the maximum possible, and when we can't satisfy greed, it turns into anger and frustration, and then delusion, because we're always right, we're always nice people, nothing is ever wrong with us. There must be something wrong with everyone else. Otherwise, how can a nice person like me be put into a position like this? So in other words, this whole thing is all connected. That's why in the previous verse about the Vedic sciences, if one can understand the Vedic sciences, that it can actually change our perspective on things. What we think is actually desirable, enviable. Look at this person, he has so much more than I do. I should automatically envy them. But we don't realize that it's dangerous. You get too much, then you're going to eat too much. And you're going to eat too much, then you're going to try to enjoy even more. And the more you try to enjoy, the more all your samarasa goes out. Eating too much means that you kill your fire digestion, and you don't create samarasa. And when you try to enjoy, whatever samarasa you have in the body is just dissipated. And when that's dissipated, you get to the 11th house. 11th house is the actual house of, and 6th house, and the 3rd house, in some way, is the houses of disease. Especially the 6th and the 11th. So all this enjoyment, all this frustration, everything else, it just leads to getting sick, unhealthy, and suffering. Although it apparently, you're gaining. 6th house means you're gaining, you're working hard to get what you want, so you can achieve the 11th house, gain. And then if you misuse it, if it's not used in Krishna service, it winds up you eat too much, you collect too much, and you wind up killing yourself, actually. It's a kind of suicide. On the other hand, if one lives a natural, healthy life, so the digestive power is good, and you have a stable mind, you're peaceful and you're satisfied, that's really wealth. That's the highest, that's material wealth. And with that material wealth, if you're satisfied, then you can actually think about Krishna and get spiritual wealth also. But if one is dissatisfied, then one will simply, whatever position one is in, whether poverty or whether it's wealth, whatever, if the mind's not satisfied, if the senses are not controlled, if one is not healthy, then the result will be one will feel dissatisfied, and it'll be practically impossible to think about Krishna. Either one will hanker for things in this material world, or one will see so many enemies around oneself, they're preventing me from getting what I want, and therefore I have to get rid of them. Or I pray to Krishna, I'm a Brahmin, you get rid of them for me, because I don't want to get my hands dirty. So the moral of the story is, living simply and naturally, and at the same time making advancement in Krishna consciousness, is the perfection of both material and spiritual attainment. On the other hand, the modern so-called progress is actually a regression. Previously, the Shudras had less intelligence, but they took shelter of the Vaishyas and the Brahmins and the Kshatriyas, who understood what real wealth was from the Vedas. So the Brahmins or the Vaishyas would protect the cows, which could give the ghee for the sacrifice, everything would be arranged so that we can get nutrients from the food, from the air, from the water, from the moonlight, from the sunlight, from the seasons. Everyone would be healthy and happy through the sacrifice arranged by the Brahmins and arranged by the Kshatriyas. And therefore, people weren't hankering for anything because everyone was satisfied. And ultimately, those who had higher knowledge, they were to be thinking about Krishna, would give them the higher satisfaction. And nowadays, everyone's a Shudra, they're always lamenting they don't have what they want, and even if they get what they want, they lament that it wasn't what they wanted, because they don't have real knowledge what will actually make their minds peaceful, satisfied. either Krishna or even a proper material existence, even proper relationships. There is so much, stories of people who got married and the man worked day and night to provide whatever the wife wanted, which is, quite a lot. And then after that, she divorced him, ran away with someone else because she didn't have any relationship with the man. He thought she just wanted material comforts, and she actually wanted some relationship at the same time. But that was not possible in the world today. So either we understand the value of emotion, the value of comfort, appreciation, of affection for the family, and develop it, and that can't be developed simply by exploitation through illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, gambling. This destroys the finer qualities, and therefore real affection can't be there. And one may surround oneself with all kinds of material comforts, the newest iPhone, the computer, the big house, the fast car, whatever. But if there's no affection, there's no love, then no one will be satisfied, even from the material point of view. If the children are not taken care of properly, if there's no stable family, if the parents aren't taken care of properly, if there's no real civilization, then everyone feels empty, materially speaking. And what to speak of, you feel empty materially, then you'll always be hankering for something else. And modern advertisement keeps the donkey running after the carrot, but they don't know what the real carrot is, what they're actually looking for. They think it's some new material invention, some new technology, some more money in the bank. They don't realize what they're actually looking for is affection, love, appreciation, stability, healthy body, healthy existence, healthy mind above everything. That's what they're really hankering for, and it can only be obtained by the Veda culture. And it can only be attained ultimately in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, people will just be running around, chasing after whatever is the newest illusion that's being presented to them in the name of peace, happiness, and prosperity. And we can see how nicely it's going on. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Yes.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Thank you for the astrological note on lust, greed, and anger. Yeah. The upachayas, the upachaya houses. I have a question about simple life. We often mention simple life, but also the Bhagavatam also seems to indicate that for a Vaishya, a Vaishya has to strive to earn money. So these two often conflict with each other. So striving to get more wealth and resources and money, which seems to be the quality and the characteristic of a Vaishya, may prevent simple life. So how would we reconcile these two things?
Well, money in the Veda culture, wealth in the Veda culture was land and cows. Now, it doesn't say simple life doesn't mean you don't work. It doesn't mean you're in the... But there's energy that comes from... Actually, you get a lot of energy if you live life in a sattvic way, more sattvic than ignorance. So with that energy, you protect the cows, you farm the land with the oxen, and everything comes. You get nutritious food, you get exercise, your wife's happy, the children's happy. You don't have to worry about some kind of, going into debt for mortgaging your house, and for educating your children. They spend the rest of their life paying off the student loan. No, it's a peaceful life. It's happy life. Everyone's satisfied, healthy, and materially happy and prosperous. So it's an ideal life. There's no... And if you don't want to have 1 million cows, or 900,000 like Nanda Maharaj, you don't have to worry about it. You just need 1 or 2 cows for your family, and your economic problem is solved. Grow a little rice or some grains, something to feed the cows, and everything's all right. Yeah, sure it is. We just have to gradually change our consciousness. It's always possible, but the question is, do we want to work towards that, or do we want to go on working away from it? It becomes impossible if we're going the wrong direction. We're not going to achieve it by making our lives more and more complicated. But at least we recognize where the goal is and see what we can do to working towards it. Then it becomes within the realm of possibility. Eventually. You just have to see where we are and where we want to go and what the different steps to get there are. Then it becomes possible. If you want to walk from here to Maribor, then how do you do it? You just take one step at a time in that direction, and eventually you'll get there. But we have to recognize that that's the goal, not, I don't want to get my hands dirty, cows, I never like cows, milk, oh, come on, milk, everyone knows milk. I'm a vegan, I don't touch milk. Oxen, oh God, these who can control an oxen? Tractors are a lot easier to move. So we have that attitude, this is not for me, this is, I grew up in the city. The only thing I pull is my TV set from one room to the next. I don't work with any. If we have that attitude, of course it becomes impossible. Like there was one farm community, as I mentioned, they said, we're going to protect the cows, we're into cow protection, completely dedicated to it. And we're going to simply live from whatever the cows give us. So they decided that they had to live a minimal life, according to their estimation. Everyone had to have a car. Everyone had to have their own TV for ISKCON TV. Everyone had to have, a vacation at least once a year in India. And the milk from the cows had to pay for it all. All 40 devotees of the farm. So they got up to 300 cows, and they were, go on, cow, keep on. You can do it, we're protecting you. And after around 300 cows, they said, well, this self-sufficiency is not possible. These cows can't pay for our cars, can't pay for our videos, can't pay for our trips to India. So these cows are useless. So they gave up on cow protection. Because you have to see, simple living it means you also have to live simply according to what the cows can provide it for. Not that our cow protection is, a show. We go on living the way we always live, and then we claim we're protecting cows and get donations from people to support these poor beggar cows. No, if we actually live simply, if we try to at least go in that direction and don't get more cows than we can actually maintain, then the result is possible in the course of time. And when devotees get stronger, they actually do a little work. They actually get a little muscle. They can actually lift a bucket of milk. Then you increase it. Then it can gradually be increased. But if we wait too long, then the result is that the only farms we'll see were in pictures. The only cows we'll see are in zoos, or pictures of them. So we have to go. Now, just like in the European Union, at one time they decided that climate change was caused by carbon dioxide. And the major offenders of carbon dioxide were the cows, because they were passing gas and producing carbon dioxide. So the solution to the world problems was to kill off all the cows in Europe. So we have to become a little serious before it's going to be very hard to. There'll be so many rules and regulations of maintaining a cow that you'd have to be a multimillionaire just to have one cow to maintain it, or to fulfill all the rules and regulations that they'll put up. So unless we take it seriously, it may come a time it's going to be extremely difficult to live simply. At least not according to the Vedic culture. what is that? They have the new thing, you'll have nothing and you'll be happy. You heard that before? Build Back Better or something. This is a World Economic Forum, that the future is you'll have nothing, you'll own nothing, and you'll be happy. That means we won't have any cows, we won't have any land, we won't have anything. We'll have whatever they want to grow food in a laboratory. They don't want people even to eat meat. They want to artificially grow it in a lab by synthesizing it through chemicals. Anyhow, the Vedic culture is, if we go at least in the direction of the Vedic culture, we might be able to chant Hare Krishna. And if we go so much in the opposite way, it's going to be extremely difficult, even to maintain our devotional lives. Anything else?
Hare Krishna. So there is question from Avaduta Rai Prabhu. First, in the Bhagavad Gita 9.20 it is said, those who study the Vedas and drink the Soma juice seeking the heavenly planets worship me indirectly. As per this quote, it seems Soma Rasa can be produced on this earth planet. How? From which plant is it made?
Well, there is a plant on this planet called Soma, so you can make rasa from it. You can make a juice out of it. I don't think it's going to give you the same effect nowadays. The Soma that's talked about in this Bhagavatam here, but that's the 9th chapter, I think. Samapa putapapa yagnai jagatin sutaryate te punya sadya surandya lokam ashnanti divyam deva deva bogan. Those who study the Vedas and drink the Soma juice seeking the heavenly planets. Anyhow, this 5,000 years ago, I guess there were a few Soma plants left over. But I don't know so much, if there's any. Is there any actually real Soma plants anymore?
It's considered lost. Different people claim different illicit things, but it's considered lost.
Anyhow, it's a very vital. The closest we can get to something like that is what's called the rejuvenative herbs and things that actually make the mind satisfied and calm and peaceful, that actually make you feel good, that you don't feel like you need anything after that. You feel the body's not demanding, the mind's not demanding. So those are as close as we can get. Then you can actually have a peaceful mind, and with a peaceful mind, practically speaking, whatever you put your determination to, you'll actually receive. Because ultimately, the only thing that soul can do is desire. But its desire is when when we don't know what to desire, what to desire, and therefore we get confused. And by the laws of karma, we get put into different situations, which are sometimes seemingly desirable and sometimes not so desirable. But when the mind's clear and the intelligence is sharp, then we know what to desire. Then our lives, Krishna arranges through his internal energy, our lives become perfect, Krishna conscious. Prabhupada didn't like hungry devotees. Sometimes the devotees would try to, artificially be austere. Prabhupada didn't like that either, because if you're hungry, that's what you're going to think about all the time. Every time, I don't want that. Ooh, I don't want it. I don't want it. And the result is you get fat by not eating and wanting things. By always being hungry, you can actually become fat. Of course, if you don't eat anything, you'll probably die. But people who are hungry all the time, they probably will get fatter. It works because the body works in such a way is that when you look at something you're hungry, then if the juices in the pancreatic juices in the mind says you're going to eat something, so the blood sugar, we don't need so much blood sugar right now. It should be stored away because he's about to eat. So body, it says, utilize the pancreatic juices and other juices, convert that blood sugar into fat and store it away because you're about to get a new supply of blood sugar. So then the body stores away in the blood the sugar as fat, and then if you don't eat anything, you gain weight because the sugar was stored away as fat. So even without eating anything, you're getting fatter. What to speak of if you eat something. And after a while, then the body will demand that you eat something if there's food. And then the result is that you won't actually lose weight by fasting, you'll wind up gaining weight. Anything else?
There is another question from Avaduta Raya Prabhu.
Yeah.
How to understand Bhagavad Gita 4.37, the transcendental knowledge burns to ashes reactions of karma, if this burning can be done only by bhakti?
Yeah, I mean, apiched asipapebhyo sarvebhya bhakritamaha sarvam jnana planevaiva vrijinam santarishati itaidam si samridoganira bhasmat sakrutejana ganagni sarvakarmani bhasmat sakrute tata. As the blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, so does the fire of knowledge burn to the ashes all the reactions to our previous activity. Is that right? Is that the question?
Yeah, I think so. So he asked, yeah, I think so, because he asked how transcendental knowledge burns to ashes reactions of karma.
Yeah, well, jnana, Krishna says, ganam gayam ganam gamya riddhi sarvasya teham. That I'm, what is the first word of that verse? It's probably 9th chapter also. No, that's 13th chapter, right? Is that right?
I think he wrote 4:37.
No, I was thinking about another verse where Krishna says, I am knowledge, I am the goal of knowledge, I am the object of knowledge, I am situated in everyone's heart. Gyanam gayam giram gamyam riddhi sarvasya vishtitam. So Krishna is knowledge. As we say that Krishna Surya Sama Maya Haya Andakar. If we're in Krishna consciousness, then we actually have knowledge. One who knows Krishna is said to be the knower of everything. And one does know Krishna, then one is actually in ignorance. So when Krishna says that the fire of knowledge burns away reactions, means service to Krishna. When Krishna reveals himself, then all the reactions of our sinful activities are burnt just like fire burns away firewood. And without Krishna, as it says, even you come up to Brahman realization, even if one comes to Brahman realization, without knowing Krishna, one is still in ignorance. The intelligence is still covered. And if we love Krishna, and Krishna loves us, and we're in ecstasy in the spiritual world, in spiritual platform of existence, then there's no question of reactions because we're not in the material world anymore. We're not in ignorance. We're in Krishna consciousness. Material world exists as a dream for the soul. There's no real... He thinks that he's actually part of the material world, but actually the soul, we have nothing to do with the material world. It's only our illusion that we're part of it. And when we become Krishna conscious, then we're no longer identified with it. Just like one wakes up in the morning, one no longer identifies with the dream anymore. So only by becoming Krishna conscious can we actually get out of the illusion of material existence and end our attachment to the material existence caused by the multiple reactions of our past desires and activities. Khala Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande.